Good morning. Welcome to All Out Politics. And we start with some breaking news. Downing Street has insisted that people should continue to self-isolate when told to do so by the NHS app. It follows suggestions this morning from the Small Business Minister Paul Scully that it was up to employers and individuals to decide what to do when people are pinged by the Test and Trace app. But a number 10 spokeswoman said isolation remains the most important action people can take to stop the spread of the virus. Given the risk of having and spreading the virus when people have been in contact with someone with COVID, it's crucial that people isolate when they're told to do so, either by NHS Test and Trace or by the NHS COVID app. Businesses should be supporting employees to isolate. They should not be encouraging them to break isolation. Well, joining us now is our political correspondent, Tamara Cohen. All rather awkward, really.
It is, and this is all over the question of whether self-isolation, which, as we know, has become a massive problem for businesses, for school children. We've got 500,000 people at home self-isolating, probably the same number at the moment with COVID. Where does that go? And the Small Business Minister said that self-isolation is advisory, and that is indeed the case. In fact, the Prime Minister was asked about it at a press conference last week. But Downing Street have been very annoyed by the idea that that allows people to somehow get out of it. And in fact, I don't know how Downing Street will feel about the fact that one of their own ministers has apparently written to manufacturers. Lord Grimstone, an investment minister, has written to manufacturers saying that it is up to them whether they want to apply.
But it does sound absurd that on the one hand, we've got Downing Street being very heavy-handed, saying, yes, if you get pinged, you've got to isolate. Yet we've got the government discussing exceptions for people working in the health service. We've got a plan to drop it anyway in the middle of August for people who've been double vaxxed. And then on top of that, you know, people are seeing on television mass crowds not self-isolating perfectly legally in clubs. It doesn't seem to make sense.
No, I think the pictures we saw yesterday and, of course, the picture from Wembley will make people think that for some, life has gone back to normal. The government insists that the self-isolation policy will continue until the 16th of August, when it may be replaced with testing instead. But Downing Street say that the list of exemptions, which we're going to get today, apparently, of parts of the economy that can be exempt, is going to be very tightly drawn. It's not going to be like the key workers list we saw at the beginning of the pandemic. I was told it's not going to be journalists like us. It's not going to be ministers and people in Downing Street who are exempt from self-isolation. It's going to be really key people involved in food production, people running nuclear power plants and so on. It's going to be very tightly drawn, but I'm sure there's going to be a real scramble to get some of those places.
And how's this plan? I think, what is it, the end of September, beginning of September, is it for people who want to go to nightclubs and other crowded indoor venues? How's that going down?
Yes, so...
To have a passport.
Indeed. After months of saying COVID passports were not going to happen, Boris Johnson said yesterday that nightclubs would have to have them. So you'd have to have had 2 jabs, have the COVID passport on your phone. Now, this will have to get through a vote in Parliament, and that will be tricky because a lot of Conservatives don't like what they see as ID cards by the back door. Labour have not said whether they will support it. They want to see what the proposal is first, and indeed point out that testing might be important as well, since 2 jabs doesn't prevent you getting or transmitting COVID. So is this going to happen? Well, not for a couple of months. So there'll be plenty of super spreading, according to Patrick Vallance, before then. And you do wonder whether the government just really hope that venues are going to just bring it in voluntarily over the next couple of months, and that with enough people vaccinated, this may not have to happen, because it's going to be a very difficult policy to bring in, how to enforce it. And of course, you're going to get a lot of opposition in Parliament.